This is St. Louis Cardinals baseball. A steamy, hot summer day at Busch Stadium. It's a day game. And the Cardinals wrap up the homestand. Game number 2, the Detroit Tigers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Welcome to the broadcast booth here at Busch Stadium with Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin. And Ricky, the Cardinals, it is a hot day. And they've got a guy that's been swinging a hot bat, and that is first baseman Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, and the Cardinals really need a spark, Danny, something offensively. And the guy who's been sparking the most is Goldschmidt. He's had a terrific month of August, a .338 average, 9 extra base hits. He's also getting on via the walk, not striking out, playing terrific defense as well. But the Cardinals need more than just Paul Goldschmidt. They need to get 3 or 4 guys as hot as he has been in the month of August.
So this month has been the best for the Cardinal first baseman. Historically gets off to slow starts, and that's no different here in 2021. March and April, right around that 200 mark, and then gradually getting better as the weather gets warmer. Well, it's blistering hot today, so maybe it's a big day for Paul Goldschmidt. It was a big day yesterday for this franchise, extending Yadier Molina. More on that coming up. It's the Tigers and Cardinals Game 2 on Bally Sports. Day baseball, the Tigers and the Cardinals, blistering hot, scorching day here in the Midwest. And last night, Cardinals got the news on Jack Flaherty with a sore shoulder, so they had to turn things over to the bullpen, and the bullpen kept them in the game.
And it's the first time since September of 2016 that the Cardinal bullpen has gone 7 scoreless innings. And there was a time during the year where the Cardinals had the big 3 and nobody else. Well, yesterday, everybody got into the act. Garcia has been as good as anybody. Garcia, 15 1/3 scoreless innings out of the Cardinals pen.
For the Cardinals, it has been a frustrating homestand, dropping 2 of 3 against Milwaukee. Then over the weekend against Pittsburgh, the loss of Flaherty. But yet, they'll try to turn it around. The Cardinals and the Tigers coming up. Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser. This Bud's for you. And by Chevrolet, the #1 selling brand in the St. Louis area. Find yours at your Mid-America Chevy dealer. It is a hot, hot day here in St. Louis. One of the hottest days of the year so far. Last night was the hottest game we've had at Busch. I would like to assume that it's going to be hotter today in day baseball.
I would guess so, and it's not just the temperature, it's the feels-like temperature. Very humid, very typical, of course, for St. Louis in August, but you know, when you're winning baseball, you don't mind the heat as much. And that's why a good game today, and it was always an advantage. I thought when teams came to St. Louis, nobody wanted to play in this heat. And as long as you're winning, you don't notice it, and you just move on and deal with it and have a happy flight on to Pittsburgh. And that's what the Cardinals are hoping for today behind Jon Lester.
So Jon Lester gets the 5th start of his season as a member of the Cardinals, number 444 in his career, 445th career appearance. He passes Javier Vasquez, Kevin Millwood, and Jack Quinn, 88th place all-time in games started, currently 25th all-time among left-handers in games started in Major League history. What have you thought of Jon Lester so far?
I'd say he's been okay. I mean, he hasn't been the Jon Lester of his youth, obviously, but, you know, he and Jay Happ both filled the void of at least getting innings in the rotation when the Cardinals needed them. They lost Wade LeBlanc, who had been filling that role, and got 2 more veteran lefties to do it. The Hyundai pitch arsenal for Lester includes his 4-seamer. He's really a guy that relies on his cutter, and the cutter, to me, is so important to him because he expands the plate. I've always thought that about him. He could throw that cutter to the back door, and he can throw it in on right-handed batters as well. You know, Lester just kind of relies on being a pitch maker, and that's going to be the key for him today. Make pitches on corner.
Detroit will wrap up their road trip today. They won 2 of 3 over the weekend in Toronto. They've taken the first game of this 2-game set. Derek Hill, Jonathan Scope, Robbie Grossman, Jeimer Candelario, then Daz Cameron, Willie Castro, Dustin Garneau, Zach Short, and Tarek Skubal, left-handed pitcher, batting 9th. It's interesting that you bring up the cutter with John Lester, and we saw that was such an effective pitch, whether we saw him in postseason play against the Cardinals all those times starting with the Cubs. Prior to coming to St. Louis, 16 starts with Washington. He was using it about 30% of the time. And now it's about 17% of the time, throwing a lot more four-seam fastballs with the Cardinals.
And maybe that's just kind of what works on that day. And that's what veteran guys do, that adjustment that you make based on whatever's working that day. But when I've seen Lester at his best, that pitch has been really tough to square up. Not exactly Mariano Rivera with it, but the same kind of effect where you can just, again, widen that plate and widen that strike zone and get some soft contact.
And the first pitch is a strike. Got to wonder, too, if Carlos Torres, home plate umpire, will have a bigger, taller, wider zone with how hot it is here today. The 0-1 pitch to Derek Hill. Hit down the left field line, and that ball is foul, 0-2.
Well, I'm all for that, and I know that there are purists in terms of getting the call right, purists, I'll call them, that want everything to be exactly right in the game that's kind of an imperfect game anyway, as that ball hits foul by 3 or 4 feet. But in my mind, there's common sense that prevails over that. And if it's 105 degrees out in St. Louis and you want to expand the strike zone, I think there'd be several players on both teams that would say that that's a wise thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, the temperature is what it is, and then it feels like
right.
X, 115, 120, whatever the case may be. One ball and 2 strikes on Derek Hill, former first-round pick in 2014 by Detroit, and debuted just a season ago. And there's a strikeout to start our afternoon here at Busch.
Well, that's Lester throwing to a corner, and that's an umpire not taking it away from him, and I'm all for it, as we mentioned. Perfectly placed. Yadi gave the target away, and that's where the pitch was. And while we're talking about Lester, Dan, let's go to our Toyota key to the game. It's length from Lester. Cardinals with 7 innings out of their bullpen yesterday. Now, they have been reinforced with Junior Fernandez back, but still, you'd like to see your starter get length. And by length, I mean 5 or 6 by today's standards. That's enough.
Here's Jonathan Scope. He is from Curacao. Could speak 3, 4 different languages. Very good player. And the Tigers gave him a 2-year extension. That keeps him with Detroit through 2023.
I'm still working on my first language. And by the way, that is Kisner behind the plate today, of course, not Yadi or Molina.
The 2-0 pitch missed as Lester glares back into the home plate umpire. I'm sure I'll say that a time or two today.
King of glare.
Yes, he is. Well, Scope is over his last 13, trying to change that. 3 for 10 against the Cardinals starter today. Swinging away on 3-0, popped up and out of play. Into the seats here at Busch Stadium. Sparse crowd here at Busch. It's been a disappointing homestand. The Cardinals begin 4.5 back in the wild card, and no one seems to want to run away with that second wild card spot.
You know, you wake up in the morning and you realize, oh, wait a minute, everybody else lost. That's the good news. And then you kick yourself and say, well, if we would have won, where would we be now?
3-1 pitch and a 1-out walk. The Cardinals defensively this afternoon. Sosa at second base, DeYoung at short. Arenado, Goldie on the corners. On the infield, Kisner behind the plate. Around the horn, presented by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Carlson, Bader, and Edman in the outfield. Always find it interesting as you get a look at Robbie Grossman and his season numbers when you have a young catcher and he is the backup working with a guy that has made so many starts. Whether it be in postseason play, regular season, doesn't matter. But John Lester has been around a long time.
Best way to handle that is to have the young catcher go to the veteran pitcher and say, what do you want to do? And then listen intently to what that answer is and make sure you kind of make it your own and you realize that this guy's been around a long time, has 197 wins because he knows what works for him.
0-2 the count here on Grossman. Originally drafted a first-round pick of Pittsburgh, then was in the Wandy Rodriguez deal that took him to Houston. He's played with Minnesota, the Oakland A's, and now the Tigers, and putting up some of his best career numbers in terms of power, stolen bases, homered last night for the 19th time.
Dan, you'll be surprised to hear this. I just got a rare tweet from Fredberg. Now, people don't know that he can tweet, but he can.
Can't talk, actually, but I guess he can tweet.
And he texted me also. That's what he really did. He texted me and
lined into center field in the base hit.
And Fredberg texts me that's actually 150 degrees.
I'm sure for him it is.
Exactly.
It is a very warm day here in the Midwest. Jeimer Candelario, the cleanup man today. No Miguel Cabrera in this lineup. The base hit into center by Grossman. And I understand it's a hot day, early start, day game after a night game. But Cabrera 15 for 28 against John Lester, but not in their starting lineup.
Boy, it'd be hard to turn away from those numbers. And that's something you know when you're setting your club for the 2-game series. And I guess I'm surprised that Cabrera played yesterday. In fact, the Cardinals would have been better off had he not. If he had have played today instead of yesterday, I think that would have maybe made a little more sense.
Fresh off of home run number 500, picked up 501 last night. That pitch taken down and in. Candelario hitting .290 against left-handed pitching. Couple of home runs, 11 doubles. He's got 33 doubles this season and 2 shy of 100 for his career.
And a good fastball hitter.
And the 1-0 pitch taken for his strike, 1-1. One of the great players of all time, and certainly in his era. You think about right-handed hitters, it's Miguel Cabrera, it's Albert Pujols, and now his sights are set on 3,000 hits. He is 43 away from 3,000. I talked to your former teammate Tracy Woodson today, who some fans may remember spent a little time in the early 90s with the Cardinals. He was on the '88 Dodger championship team, and he had Cabrera at Double-A. He was his manager. There's a ground ball left side. Could be 2. The turn. Double play. Arenado, Sosa to Goldie. And there's no score. Inning was through. Goes to Andrew Kisner, and I'm sure that conversation a little bit about, okay, what are you thinking? Here's what I'm thinking. Let's go.
Yeah, and that's him taking charge, which, again, is a sign of a veteran pitcher. You don't, what good is it, Dan, to talk about it tomorrow? You talk about it when you're right in the middle of it. Make the adjustment. In-game adjustments are the name of the game in baseball, offensively and defensively.
Tommy Edman, the switch hitter for the Cardinals, playing right field today. He'll lead it off, and then Goldschmidt, 1 run batted in, shy of 900. Dylan Carlson, Nolan Arenado, Paul DeYoung, Sosa, Bader, Kisner, and Lester against Tarek Skubal. So Skubal, the 24-year-old from Hayward, California. 9th round selection in 2018. So we saw Casey Mize last night, the #1 overall pick of that draft class, and this is a good find for Detroit here.
Yeah, he's a good young left-hander. Had a bad month of April. He was trying to incorporate a splitter, and it wasn't working. He was 0-4 in April, and his manager said, no mas. Go back to that curveball. Use that more often. So the splitter's been tanked a little bit, and the curveball's been used more. Got a good line fastball. Cardinals saw him in Detroit, and his problem in Detroit, Dan, was the fact that he threw 97 pitches in 4 2/3 innings. That's a lot.
Yep.
That means deep pitch counts. It means not finishing guys off. A few walks in that game. And again, on a hot day, not to keep emphasizing that, but that is a factor today.
And a swing and a miss and a strikeout of Tommy Edman. So in April, 6 games, 4 starts, to your point, ERA over 6. And then you have a former catcher that is your manager in A.J. Hinch. And he said, okay, let's scrap that look that you had, the splitter, and let's go back to what got you here.
We were just talking about in-game adjustments, but there's such a thing as in-season adjustments, too. If you keep doing the...
That is hammered. Deep left. At the wall. Gone. Long home run. Paul Goldschmidt, number 20 this year. RBI number 900 of his career. 1-0, St. Louis.
I love it when the players, Dan, follow the script. He was in our open. We said Paul Goldschmidt has been hot in August, needs to spark the team. So here's some spark for you. 94, he turned on it. That was a no-doubter. That ball carried over the bullpen. And that's a good start offensively for St. Louis.
And another 20 home run campaign for Paul Goldschmidt. Switch hitter Dylan Carlson playing left field today. No Tyler O'Neill. So it's hot and now smoky because of the fireworks here at the ballpark.
Nothing like some good smoky fireworks on a
blistering hot day
on the Mississippi.
Goldschmidt becomes the 92nd career primary first baseman in history of the game with 900 or more runs batted in.
I will say this, Dan, if the Cardinals hit 3 or 4 more home runs, I'll bear with it. That's fine. I'd take it. Take the fireworks.
And the 2-1 pitch to Carlson, now 2-2. Carlson is returned to the lineup dealing with a sore wrist, landed on the IL, came back last night and hits that out of play. Nice play by a fan to our right in Nolan Arenado jersey. And I'm out in front and a strikeout, second for Skubal. Tigers defensively around the horn is presented by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Scope, Castro, Short, Candelario on the infield. Dustin Garneau is behind the plate. Grossman, Hill, Cameron in the outfield. Last night it was game number 1200 of Nolan Arenado's outstanding career. Could be on his way to a 9th Gold Glove. Picked up 2 more runs batted in, and he's up to 82 this year. The 1-0 pitch. Hit left side and foul. 1 ball and 1 strike. So Goldschmidt has joined Arenado at the plate, who has 25 home runs. Tyler O'Neill 21. 3 with 20 on this roster. Check swing. Ten teams right now in baseball that have 3 players on the roster with 20 or more. The 1-2. Ooh, Nolan thought that may have been strike 3. He was ready to walk maybe towards the Cardinal dugout. The 2-2 pulled foul.
I saw a funny video on I believe it was on YouTube, about a minor league game where there was a called ball, but it looked like strike 3, and the batter walked back to the dugout. The pitcher and the catcher also walked back to the dugout. The umpire was standing by himself and had to tell everybody to come back.
Come on back.
It's kind of like, well, you'd think you'd get outvoted there.
It's kind of like replay sometimes, too.
Yeah.
Teams leave the field, have to come back. A swing and a miss, so 3 strikeouts in this first inning, but Paul Goldschmidt with home run number 20. RBI number 900 of his career. 1 inning in the books. 1-0 St. Louis. Miller, Helsley, now Flaherty have gone on the IL. And that happened last night for Jack Flaherty. As Daz Cameron digs in. First pitch, a ball, and Erica, it's been a tough go for the Cardinals injury-wise here in the month of August, and certainly with Jack last night.
Yeah, it was a really tough night last night. Mike Schultz said the only good thing that came out of that one yesterday was the news about Yachty. More on that later. But yes, Jack Flaherty is on the injured list as of today. For how long, that remains to be seen. But Mike Schultz told me the imaging is mostly negative. It was that right shoulder tightness, which he left the game from. He said it's a strain of the right shoulder. Initial reports show no structural issues, which is the good news. He said that's about what we expected. So could Jack run out of runway as far as being able to return this season? Schultz said it's a possibility. We don't want to go and speculate and get too far, but it is possible. He also added KK, a candidate to replace him in the rotation.
All right, we saw KK in relief last night. Relievers were outstanding. Ricky, the 8th game this year in which a Cardinals starter wasn't able to pitch a full 3 innings. 8 different times.
Yeah, that's too many, and that's a big burden on the bullpen, of course. And that when you have injury issues, that's one thing. When you have a pitcher that just can't go further than that because they get beat around, that's another. And the Cardinals, fortunately, have Michaelis back, and let's hope he can continue to go in a good direction. And KK, you mentioned yesterday. And also, the hope is that Wade LeBlanc isn't far away.
Well, the relievers last night, 5 different coming out of the bullpen after Flaherty allowed those back-to-back homers. Nobody out in the 3rd, and got 7 innings of shutout baseball. It was really good.
We've talked a lot about the big 3 in the Cardinals bullpen, and we had the other 5 pitch yesterday very well.
And Cameron pops it foul on a full count delivery. Lester was able to get the double play to end the top of the 1st. And a 3-2 pitch. And a fly ball lifted in the air towards right center, backing up Bader to the edge of the track and makes the catch. Now is your chance to combine digital keepsakes and memorable experiences from the St. Louis Cardinals. Bid now on the one-of-a-kind Busch Stadium NFT, part of MLB Stadium Series. Includes an opportunity to throw an honorary first pitch before a Cardinals home game. Visit candy.com for complete details. Willie Castro, the switch hitter, with 11 hits in his last 11 games. Make it 12 hits in his last 12 games. Base hit to right with 1 out here in the top of the 2nd. We saw him on the bench last night because Cabrera played and they have to shift things around. No DH in a National League ballpark. And I was saying to you before about visiting with your former teammate and talking about Miguel Cabrera, Tracy Woodson. He had Cabrera as a Double-A player. And I said, you know, when you deal with Double-A guys or really great talented players and you're the manager, you know, sometimes you got to handle them with kid gloves, or you got to get on them a little bit. I said, did you have to do that with Miguel? He said, every once in a while, Kisner a chance and got him. That's a caught stealing. Nice throw. And they get Willie Castro and a quick catch and release from Andrew Kisner.
Tigers have 2 Castros. One of them runs, the other one doesn't, and this is the one that does run. He didn't waste any time, but neither did Kisner get rid of that ball. Good pop time. Boom, 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 right on the money.
So they had found out that Cabrera was going to get called up. He's on deck. And he says, well, should I pull him? And that's down into the corner off the bat of Dustin Garneau. And a lot of times teams will say, yeah, get him out of there. Don't let him get hurt, whatever. We're bringing him up to the big leagues. Well, they let him hit. Grounds into a double play. Inning ending. Doesn't really hustle down the line. And he said, all right, we're going to tell him he's going to the big leagues. But when we do it, we're going to act like we're really upset about him not running down the line.
So got to get on him first. Yeah.
Gets all the coaches together. He said Cabrera is really upset. Like, oh, no, I'm in trouble. They're going to bench me the rest of the game. And he said, hey, you realize when you go to the big leagues, you got to hustle down the line. So make sure you're doing that tomorrow night.
Oh, what a great story. Isn't that terrific?
And the rest was history. I said, did you really ever think this would be a 500, 3,000 guy? And he said, you knew there was great talent, but how do you predict this kind of talent? You can't.
Hard to describe the feeling of sending a player to the big leagues for a minor league coach. You know, you're happy when you get that call, but when somebody gets the call that you feel as if you've helped, that's a really special moment.
Absolutely.
I had it with a pitcher that I had in the minor leagues that got right to the big leagues. He was an A ball, went to Double A, went to the big leagues in a hurry. And it's just, I just couldn't wait to watch him pitch. Couldn't wait. I followed his career. Alan Embry was his name. Pitcher, hard throwing left-hander.
Oh, yeah.
And so just couldn't wait to see him pitch. And almost like your kids, Dan, like you're rooting for your kids. They're kind of like that.
Gary LaRocque has had that responsibility. He runs the player development side of the Cardinals. Obviously, Mike Schilt did that, the Cardinal manager now, when he was down in the minor leagues. John Mozeliak. So the intentional walk to Zach Short to bring in Skubal, and this is a big difference in interleague play. American League teams coming to the National League ballpark, and the pitchers have to hit.
Should be advantage National League in these kind of moments.
Runners at first and second. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
I'm not sure that advantage is as big as the other advantage when you play in an American League park, and they've got a roster built to have a power hitting DH, and you don't.
No question. High paying job.
Yep.
There to mash. The 1-2 pitch. Just off the plate, a little low. And the 2-2. Strikeout for John Lester, his second in the ball game. Through 2 innings, the Tigers have stranded 3. DeYoung, Sosa, Bader coming up. World Series, the vaunted Yankees. The legend Roger Clemens against the rookie Miguel Cabrera. Up and in, no problem, and a sign of things to come. The great power to the opposite field.
Well, you say the legend Roger Clemens, but the soon-to-be legend Miggy taking him oppo.
Such a tremendous opposite field hitter, and plate coverage, trusting your hands, allowing the ball to get deep and take it the other way with authority.
People talk about the difference in the game, Dan, from say 30, 40 years ago, and that's a huge difference. Very rarely would there be a player on the other team that you even worried at all about hitting an opposite field home run. It just wasn't done.
And a strike to shortstop Paul DeYoung as we begin play here in the bottom of the second inning. You think about how much power slug is valued and how are you going to do that. A lot of guys are putting everything they can in, turn on the baseball, hit it for power.
So the old Greg Maddux way of pitching, when you kind of get in trouble and you realize, well, I'll just let the guy get himself out. I'll throw the ball up and away and he'll fly out to right. I'm not sure that works anymore. He'll fly out to right, all right.
Well, Cardinals did not lose any ground to the Reds or the Padres last night. Both teams lost, so 4.5 out. And that already is strikeout number 4 for Skubal. So he is struck out for the 5 he's seen.
Off-speed delivery down. Had him out front. Sold it well. 85-mile-an-hour changeup.
It's very frustrating last night. Cardinals got their first hitter on base 4 times in the first inning. But then they went 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. And then finally got a little breakthrough, but it was too late. And lost the ball game by a run. San Diego, they have dropped 10 of 12, so they're one back of Cincinnati for the second spot. Cardinals 4.5. Phillies just a half game back of St. Louis. And after they finish their series with Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, 27 of their next 30 are against teams under 500. 2 balls, 1 strike on Edmundo Sosa. I think you hit it on the head last night. You talked about it, where the Cardinals pitching, they've allowed the fewest walks in the last month. Starting pitching has been pretty good. Bullpen has been settled down, but yet you look on the homestand, runners in scoring position, a massive problem. So it just hasn't been in sync, where when one part of the team is rolling, the other part is dragging, or vice versa.
And I think that's the one thing that's kept the team from being on a good roll. Now, they did have a great road trip last time out. I'd hope that the Cardinals would lose just 1 game on that road trip, and they won them all. And yes, they were under 500 teams, but since then, and since the Cardinals have come home, it's been one issue. Maybe it's a bad defensive play, bad inning by a pitcher. One mistake just seems to kind of be glaring. And it's really been hard to be not consistent on an individual basis, but consistent with everything, where all facets of the game are working for a prolonged period of time. That really hasn't happened much this year.
And the Cardinals have not played great baseball at home. Normally they can hang their hat on that. St. Louis 34-30 at home. That home winning percentage 18th in the league. And the 3-2 pitch, tapped foul. So they go 6-0 on the road. They come in with momentum. You got Milwaukee at home, and it just went flat for whatever reason.
Flat against Pittsburgh, flat yesterday. And that's flat, Dan, with opportunity staring you right in the face to get back in the wild card race. And as you mentioned, with teams losing yesterday, it's still striking distance. And, you keep saying that, but you got to see a pathway to get there.
3-2 pitch taken, and that hit Sosa, and he's hit again. Apparently that got him on the hand. He kind of hovers around the plate, leans in, and he gets hit all the time in limited playing time.
I still love watching him play. I don't love watching him get hit, but that's part of the package. Yep, that's right off the protective gear. He's not afraid to let it hit that.
So he's got that protective gear, kind of threw the elbow out there initially. I thought it was his hand. He was shaking that, but that was just shaking his arm. So he's aboard with 1 out. And now Harrison Bader, who tripled for the first time last night, late.
Well, there's some referred pain, I'm sure. When you get hit in the elbow, you probably feel it all the way to your fingertips.
And strike 1 on Bader.
In fact, that's one of the ways you can tell when somebody has Tommy John issues. You'd say, well, how can I tell by kind of looking at their elbow? And say, well, you really can tell by the last 2 fingers on that throwing hand, your pinky finger and the ring finger. If they're starting to curl up and you lose feeling it in those 2 fingers, you may have a ulnar nerve problem.
And this is a young man that has come back from Tommy John. Skubal had that when he was pitching at the University of Seattle. Missed 2 years recovering from Tommy John and slipped in the draft all the way down to the 9th round. There's a strikeout of Bader, and like I said before, Detroit thinks they've got a good one here. That's his 5th strikeout in 2 innings.
That's a high hard one this time, so he's getting it different ways. Climb the ladder on Bader. You think about the first pitcher that came back from Tommy John, that was Tommy John.
Yes, sir.
And think about how novel that must have been and how different and scary that must have been at the time. You're going to do what to my what and what? You think I'm going to be able to pitch again? And he did, of course, into his 40s. But it's become such a effective surgery now in terms of success rate that I don't think people are afraid of it anymore.
You and I love this game, and we love the history of the game. And I do wonder why Tommy John is not in the Hall of Fame. It's a surgery that transformed the sport, and then when he got back, he won a bunch of games. I mean, it was very, very good.
It'd almost be a Tommy John / Frank Jobe.
Yeah, I think Frank Jobe too. Marvin Miller going into baseball's Hall of Fame.
I do think that there's going to be a time where baseball starts to recognize special achievement in some unique way, and they certainly are deserving.
Size frozen beverage every game day. Valid April 1st through October 3rd. Every Cardinals home or away game. Cardinals begin a long road trip after the contest today. They'll head out to Pittsburgh, first of 4 beginning tomorrow night. We'll have it for you on Bally Sports. And a trip that'll take them through Cincinnati and Milwaukee. The Brewers, by the way, had to put Eduardo Escobar on the injured list with a strained hamstring. Willie Adames left their game last night with a leg injury. The Reds 69-58. They DFA'd the lefty Sean Doolittle, and TJ Antone had to come out of their game with an arm injury, and that could be a massive loss for their bullpen. That guy is nasty.
He's had a breakout year, no question. Throws hard. Well, injuries are always important, and of course they're hearing the news of Jack Flaherty.
Top of the lineup, it's Derek Hill, Jonathan Scope, and Robbie Grossman. Through 2 innings, Tigers have left 3 on. And the 1-0 pitch. Lester glaring back into the home plate umpire, Carlos Torres. Tim Timmons at first, Junior Valentin at second, Sam Holbrook, the crew chief, down at third. Here's a 1-0. Two more strikeouts today for John Lester, and he is 42 away from 2,500 for his career. He's 4 strikeouts away from the legendary lefty. Speaking of guys that should be in the Hall of Fame, Jim Cott.
Yeah.
Talking with Jim about that spring training 2 years ago, and Jim is down in our neck of the woods in spring training. I said, I don't understand how you're not in the Hall of Fame. Longevity, success, championship in '82 with the Cardinals, and he said, I think I'm the one guy where longevity probably hurt me. Used as a specialist on the ground to DeYoung. So you look at the numbers, and they're great. But then some people will say, well, it almost took 25, 30 years to get there, and that wasn't the case.
Well, that's the Don Sutton argument. There's a lot of people that say that about the late Don Sutton in the same way, and very similar with Kitty Cott. And Cott, by the way, 16-time Gold Glove Award winner also, was one of the best pitchers in the American League for a long time. And, you know, I think of him and Don Sutton similar. Just Sutton was able to get those 300 wins, and I think that's probably the difference maker there. But long careers.
Also, Cott, a fantastic broadcaster for so many years, and still doing it.
And so was Don Sutton. Almost had a chance to play with both those guys. Cott was a Cardinal in '82.
And you were close.
I was close. And Sutton was a Dodger in '88, and then he was released before I got there. But, of course, had the opportunity to get to know each of them. And Kitty Cott would actually take me to the ballpark, my first spring training. He would give me a ride in, and I would listen to his wisdom. Didn't talk a lot, but asked a lot of questions. And he was very helpful to me.
Past the diving Nolan Arenado on a 3-0 pitch. Scope on his way to second base. They turned him loose on 3-0 back in the first inning as well. And that'll be a 1-out double.
He was bound and determined to get off of that 0 for 13, wasn't he?
You got it.
That 3-0 pitch might be the best way to make that happen.
Also trusting a veteran, a guy that's had a good year, and yeah, why not? Probably going to get a fastball. You're down by a run. Turn him loose.
We mentioned yesterday, Scope had 3 home runs in that, or 2 home runs, 3 extra base hits in that 2-game series in Detroit. And Tigers scored a lot of runs in that series.
Outscored the Cardinals 14-4. Diving stop, Arenado. Oh, what a play. Nolan Arenado to his left as he robs Robbie Grossman.
Robs Grossman and saves a run.
I'm not sure if DeYoung would have been able to knock this down on the infield, but Nolan says, why not just do it this way and make sure he doesn't score, and let's get an out.
Really good range by Arenado. And once he gets the baseball, Dan, you almost start calling him out already because his throws are always on the money.
I can remember maybe one instance this year where he had a throw that was a bit high, and that's it.
Did you yell at him?
I did. I said, get this bum out of here.
What's the matter with you?
And I said, well, I kind of like watching him play and
right.
really like watching him hit. I don't know, the 8 gold gloves kind of stand out too. You know, to me, he has been everything that the Cardinals thought he might be this year.
I think it's fair to say if you're going to get a golden glove, you have to have a golden arm to go along with it.
Sure. Accurate, strong, especially at that position on some of the backhanded plays that he's made this year or coming in. The swinging bunts or the bunt type plays. Here's Candelario with a runner at third. Well, your runner at third base is Scope, and Arenado way back at third. He can get at least a third, maybe halfway down that third base line, and puts a little pressure on Andrew Kisner. 0-2 the count, Adam, way out in front.
And we should mention one time, and that's probably enough, Dan, the vulnerability that Lester has regarding bunting and holding runners. Not really comfortable throwing to first base. That's been well documented, so it's always a possibility.
And the 0-2 is hit out of play. If you're down the third base line, you're in the seats, it is a smoker. Whew. Down the right field line or behind home plate, some of the areas of the ballpark with shade. More and more fans are saying, I appreciate my view lower towards the field, but up there doesn't look too shabby right now. 0-2 pitch, and it's 1-2.
You were talking about the glare of John Lester, Dan. I think he could be well cast in a spaghetti western as the bad guy. Put the black hat on him, have him come in, give you that scowl. He can play that part perfectly.
There's Arenado again. And again, Detroit leaves a man on. That's 4 through 3 innings. Lester, Edmund Goldie coming up. September 6th, Cardinals host the Dodgers, and that day 30,000 fans ages 16 and older take home their very own Victory Blue hooded pullover courtesy of the Shane Company. Cardinals.com/promotions for tickets. It'll be Lester, Edman, and Goldschmidt. In the home half of the third, the Cardinals with a 1-run lead. They have one hit, home run hit by Paul Goldschmidt, his 20th of the year. Skubal has struck out 6 in the first 2 innings. Will it be the final time that we see Albert Pujols in St. Louis? Dodgers will be in town for 4 games. I think it'd be interesting if he comes back for 1 more year. Yadi's got 1 more year. Both go out and then go into the Hall of Fame together.
Wouldn't that be something?
Could happen. That's strikeout number 7. So 7 of the first 9 strikeouts, 6 were swinging. That one looking. While we have a moment, quick word from Rally House.
Get ready for kickoff, St. Louis. Rally House has the game day gear you're looking for, including Chiefs 2021 sideline gear and the latest college styles.
Top of the lineup and Tommy Edman.
I think if you could write the story perfectly for next year in a storybook kind of way, you'd say, yeah, let Albert come here, and however that works out, and let Waino come back and have Yadi catch Waino about 30 times so they could be all-time in terms of pitcher-catcher combination.
There's a broken bat. Skubal on it, hops on it, and makes the play.
And let Kisner play a little bit more so you can develop him into or Herrera into the next catcher.
StatCast powered by Google Cloud back in the first inning, and this home run, number 20 this year for Paul Goldschmidt.
Well, that's the hardest ball the Cardinals have hit today. And the second hardest one was the one Tommy Edman just bounced to the left side of the infield.
Yadier Molina, by the way, 5th in innings caught at the age of 39 here in 2021. 785 2/3 as Goldie lifts it down the right field line, and that is gone. It's all Paul Goldschmidt today. Goldie 2, Detroit nothing. 2 for 2 and a pair of home runs.
Let's make a mental note to talk about him in our open tomorrow as well, as he hits this one the other way. Pulled one, but he's not a one-trick pony. He's got power the other way. You talked about Cabrera's power the other way. That ball really carried to right field. Good start for Goldie today. Maybe not done.
He does have a 3-home run game as a St. Louis Cardinal early in his tenure with the Redbirds, that first road trip that he played in against Milwaukee. His 18th multi-home run game. That's a foul ball.
Every month, Goldie just keeps getting better. And what you'd really love is to see what he could do in an October, if that's the case.
And the 0-2 pitch. Old foul. Fouled back by Dylan Carlson. Struck out swinging. Every position player is struck out with the exception of Goldie. 2 for 2 with a home run, and Sosa was hit with a 2-strike pitch. Hit softly towards third. Gloved by Candelario, and they get Dylan Carlson by a half step. First home run hit over the bullpen and left. This one opposite way. His second home run of the afternoon. 2-0. Redbirds on top. Blistering hot day. And a 2-0 St. Louis lead. Couple of solo home runs hit by Paul Goldschmidt, numbers 20 and 21. And he now has driven in 73 this year. Daz Cameron was part of the Justin Verlander deal with Houston. We were talking about Yadier Molina earlier. Back on June 23rd, he became the other half of the first father-son duo to pick up a stolen base against Yadier Molina. So they're the first, and that's when you know you've been around a long time.
That's right.
He got his dad, who was a really good player. It was part of the King Griffey Jr. deal, and Daz was caught earlier this season.
The other way that can happen is if the dad plays a really long time and the son's really, really good, which is the case of the Griffey family.
And then you homer in the same game.
Right. So certainly you could throw them both out because they're playing at the same time, for goodness sakes. That to me that had to be some thrill. Think about that.
I can't even imagine. Wainwright and Molina, by the way, at 298 starts together. There's a swing and a miss. And so now with Yadi coming back, and let's just assume that Waino does and they're healthy, they're going to have a chance to set the all-time record.
Right.
Starts together. Mickey Lolich and Bill Freehand did it with these Detroit Tigers, 324. And a strikeout of Daz Cameron, number 3 today for John Lester.
You know, Dan, at one point I thought that stat was maybe, just kind of out there, not that important to anybody. But, boy, it's just taken a life of its own. And there's the numbers, 324, Mickey Lolich, and the late Bill Freehand passed away this week. And so this is a number I think has gotten more and more important, not only to Cardinal fans, but also to Adam and Yadi personally. That's not a stat I would have ever even considered or thought about. But because these two guys have been together so long, it becomes something we track.
Here's an 0-1 pitch to Castro. Now 0-2. I think with free agency, the fact that players make so much money, so how motivated are they to play till 39, 40, 41? And it takes two to tango. Teams have to want you around that long. I don't think we see it ever again.
I think you've got pitchers, max effort pitchers. It's harder for them to have the longevity anyway, period. I mean, Adam Wainwright type pitchers are around now. You've got a lot of guys just kind of gripping it and ripping it. And that works for a period of time, but then the longevity becomes a question.
The 1-2 pitch inside, 2-2. Sometimes teams just say, hey, we need to turn the page on this guy. We love him, but it's time. Cardinals have not done that with Waino or Yadi. And, we're talking about baseball's Hall of Fame potentially with Molina and Albert Pujols. All three could go out next year. Let's add Waino into the equation. All three go into the Cardinals Hall of Fame in the same year, which could happen and probably will if they all retire at the same time.
Get a nice front row seat for that one.
You bet.
Do you have your remarks ready yet?
I do not. I think I just let the crowd speak for itself.
All you have to do is introduce them.
Yes. That's it. If you want to get people on your side and you're doing any kind of Cardinal event, just say something about Willie McGee and you're in.
Well, interesting if that happens. You've got two very humble guys, different guys in Pujols and Wainwright, but I would say humility is a big part of them. And Yadi's kind of a reserved guy, really. And so just be interesting to hear their hearts. And we'll get that chance somewhere down the road.
Here's a 3-2 pitch and a base hit into center. Lester looking back at the home plate umpire. He wanted that pitch on the inside corner 3 pitches ago, didn't get it, and it turns out to be a 1-out base hit.
He got that Western glare, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Castro is 2 for 2.
Too much of the plate this time. Castro, I mean, Lester's the type pitcher that needs to be on time with everything where he is in his career. You just need to be sharp. I think his breaking pitch is sharp today. The fastball's been good too. The command's been good. There's another pitch right there at the bottom of the zone. And it doesn't hurt to have a couple of balls hit right at people, too.
Cardinals turned a double play off the bat of Candelario back in the first inning. Garneau, a double down into the left field corner, falls behind, 0-2. St. Louis will have Arenado, DeYoung, and Sosa looking ahead to the home half of the fourth, leading 2-0 in this game. A ball and 2 strikes.
Sometimes you get the glare, sometimes you get the statue finish after a pitch where you just freeze as if to say, I can't believe you called that a ball.
Then you get the ball being snapped back by Lester when it comes back to him.
Doesn't hurt to politic a little bit. That's what catchers are doing by framing the ball.
But if you're the home plate umpire, Carlos Torres, you know the reputation of John Lester, and you you get ready for it. You know it's coming. The 2-2. Missed in. We'll see if they want to start the runner here. Willie Castro, who was caught stealing, back in the second. 3-2 the count.
I think they'll run him again.
Leaning towards second base. Not running on the 3-2, and it's a double play ball. Arenado, the turn. Double play.
Should have run him again.
Sosa was taken out hard by Castro. You don't see that very often anymore. And the second double play turn by St. Louis. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Ford, the official car and truck of the Cardinals. And by CarShield. CarShield cars go farther. Hot day here in St. Louis. Cardinals have 2 hits, 2 home runs hit by Paul Goldschmidt. 2-0 our score.
And for those watching, just so we can be honest about it, it's not that hot, Dan. It's only 95 degrees, feels like 105. That's all. So we're not, maybe we've been exaggerating a little bit.
It's hot, Ricky.
Yeah, I know.
It's really hot.
I thought it would actually be hotter than that.
There's Nolan Arenado, struck out his first time up. Tough homestand for Nolan, 4 for 31, but he has started a pair of double plays and lifts that into center for the first out. Lee Arthur Smith, he's going to be part of a Budweiser bash.
All right. Big Lee.
He's coming, the Hall of Famer. That'll be September 7th. Lee Smith. Purchase a theme ticket, receive a bobblehead, VIP theme ticket. Also gain access to his pregame autograph session. Tickets at cardinals.com/budbash.
There's 2 people I can remember shaking hands with and feeling like I lost my hand.
That would be one of them.
And Lee was one. Bob Guerin's another. Former big league catcher. Cardinal minor leaguer. Huge hands and was a terrific receiver because of it. Gave a big target. Just was really easy to work with.
And the 0-2 tap foul.
And Lee, a guy that if he wanted to, if it was his personality, could be the meanest, toughest guy on the block, but he's just a big old teddy bear.
He's the nicest guy you ever met.
And he's great to everybody too.
That's strikeout number 8. I asked him about a month ago, I said, did you ever think it's not going to happen? He said, Dan, man, yeah, I did. He said, yeah. He goes, I'm thinking, what did I have to do? I had 478 career saves. I got the most saves, and I'm not in the Hall of Fame. But he said, now it's all good. I'm in.
Anybody that was in a bullpen with Lee Smith You know, we call it curveball Uncle Charlie, right? When Adam pitches, but he called it a snapdragon. And I'd never heard that before, but that's my favorite name for a curveball.
Snapdragon.
I don't know what it means. I have no idea.
Well, you probably wouldn't see Lee until about the 6th or the 7th because he was taking a nap. And I mean that sincerely.
This is not a joke.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
As a teammate of his, there was someone that was in charge of about the 7th inning. He had his own cot that would be in a flatbed underneath the ballpark at Busch Stadium 2, and someone would be in charge in the 7th inning of going and waking him up. And his thought was, well, I'm not really needed the first 7 innings. Of course he wasn't. And he also wanted to be relaxed, and sure enough, he was.
It's great.
It worked for him.
Boy, he had some great years and very good years here in St. Louis. 0-2 pitch, 1-2.
I always wondered when he was with the Cubs why he took so long to walk in out of the bullpen, and now I realize that he just hit the snooze alarm.
Yeah. Said his best buddies were the grounds crew down there.
Oh, yes.
They took care of him.
Oh, yeah. And he them.
Yes, he did. Is he headed to this year's fantasy camp?
He's not on this year's list, which is too bad. I love it when he's there.
Always fun.
Of course, that list is getting bigger and bigger of former Cardinals that want to be there.
No question. It's 9 strikeouts in 4 innings for Skubal. He's given up 2 hits, solo home runs, 2-0 as we head to the 5th.
Yesterday afternoon, Yadier Molina extending his deal, a 1-year contract through the 2022 season as we take a look at Yadi's numbers and his all-time franchise ranks among the St. Louis Cardinals. Yadi speaking to the media this morning saying this is how he wanted it to go down. He didn't want it to go to free agency through negotiations, and he wanted to stay here, so this is what he wanted to do and get it done early. Now, Danny, as far as you talking about Yadi and Waino coming back for 1 more year, Yadi said, I'd love for that to happen. He says he's called me every day last season asking what I'm going to do, so now it's my turn to do that to him. He said, I love Waino as a human. I'd love to finish my career with him.
I think everybody would.
No doubt.
Thanks,
no
Erica.
doubt.
I mean, just the sentimentality of it. I think everybody wants to see those guys go out together.
So they're 2 great players. They're 2 great Cardinals. And I think there's a uniqueness to their bond, too. That baseball has brought together a guy from really a poor area in Puerto Rico and a guy raised by a single mother in southern Georgia and made them connected through the game of baseball. I think that's just the wonderful thing about this game, wonderful thing about competition, camaraderie, and those 2 guys will be forever linked.
3-1 to short. Popped up into shallow left, late break by Carlson, but he'll make the catch. Brings in Tarek Skubal. John Lester, by the way, has had a little help behind him. 2 double plays turned. There have been 5 turned when he was in Washington in 16 starts, and he's got 6 in 5 starts, including today with the Cardinals.
So I always think doubleheaders are partly the defenders helping behind you, but it's also you making that pitch.
So 1 out and nobody on for Skubal. Struck out back in the 2nd.
So the double plays are again a defensive stat, but it's also, I think, pitching is offensive. It's the pitcher inducing them.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. Lester's spot is due up third for the Cardinals. Pitch count next one is 77. And he picks up a strikeout. That's 4 in this ball game.
Well, we wanted length from Lester, and I think we're about there. I mean, again, by today's standards, in the heat of the day, do I think they should keep him in longer? Yes, but he's been very effective here this afternoon.
Back to the top of the lineup. Derek Hill. It's interesting. I mean, you're in Mike Schultz spot, and you know that 3 times through a lineup, analytics will tell you that could mean trouble.
Right.
Here we go with the 3rd time. We're talking about a bullpen last night that had to cover 7 innings. But that plays into this too.
And that is definitely part of it. And of course, you did not have to use your big 3.
And that's the other aspect of this. We're talking about Cabrera, Gallegos, and Reyes.
And Junior Fernandez is back up with Jack Flaherty going on the IL. So a couple more weapons for Mike Schilt.
And there's a base hit into the gap in right center. That'll go all the way to the wall. Derek Hill to second base. And he will stop there. A 2-out double. He's 1 for 3. And the tying run comes to the plate, and Jonathan Schoop.
I would say this: if Lester spot comes, if he's able to get Jonathan Schoop out here, which has not been something he's been able to do yet, 3rd time through the lineup conversation. If John Lester comes to the plate with runners on 2nd and 3rd, nobody out, I would pinch hit for him. I think it may be situational in the bottom of the 5th inning, but let's get through the top of the 5th first. But as a manager, you have to be thinking about that right now.
So 2 outs and the runner at 2nd. And that pitch taken just a bit low.
The other thing a manager thinks about, Dan, is if you have to pull a pitcher in the middle of the inning, what is the most reasonable double switch I can make? And you make that determination. You think about, okay, who made the last out? Is that somebody I would double switch with? If it's Arenado, no. If it's Goldschmidt, no. Everybody else, maybe.
And a base hit into right field. Tommy Edman charging, his throw to the plate, not in time. A 2-out hit. Schoop as he drives in his 70th, cuts a lead to 2-1.
We always talk about the last out in the 9th inning is tough to get. Sometimes the last out in the 5th inning is tough to get too for a starting pitcher, because you reach that 3rd way through the lineup. Good throw by Tommy Edman, but good speed for Derek Hill. No chance to get him. Lester's had a good changeup, good location, good off-speed pitches today. And really, he's done everything you'd ask him to do, except get one more out.
Luis Garcia, right-hander, throwing in the St. Louis bullpen. Normally, Mike Maddox will put that claw on the shoulder of one of his pitchers, but not with John Lester.
Again, he's got that right out of Hollywood glare. You might not get it back.
Pick and choose your spots, huh?
You might lose your claw.
Robbie Grossman, base hit back in the 1st, grounded out to 3rd. And with Lester now having some issues here in the 5th, his spot due up 3rd.
We need to get Goldschmidt to the plate again.
Yeah, makes you think that they may pinch hit, and you're 5 spots away from Goldie, who was 2 for 2 with a pair of home runs and the only 2 hits for the Cardinals today. Missed in, 2 balls and no strikes.
And that was a strike. Some missed pitches are worse than others. And getting to a 2-0 count on Grossman, their big power threat in the lineup today, that was a bad miss.
3-0.
And so was that.
Candelario is on deck, who's 0 for 2. Well, they've been swinging on 3-0 against John Lester. Turned him loose.
Don't really have anything to lose, do you?
Why not?
At some point, I would think the Cardinals would get into an offensive strategy that would be similar to that. Just air it out and maybe start running more. Just do things. Nothing to lose.
3-1, pulled foul, now 3-2. Yeah, you just start playing, going for broke.
Yeah.
Next pitch, number 88 for John Lester. Outfield basically straight away, fairly deep for Robbie Grossman. From 3-0 to a full count. Scope off with this pitch with 2 down. The full count delivery by Lester. Softly hit, and the catch made by Paul Goldschmidt. 7, 8, 9 coming up. A 2-out RBI single by Scope. Gets Detroit on the board. Struck out 9. Struck out every spot in the Cardinal lineup with the exception of Paul Goldschmidt. Throwing hard. A lot of swinging strike threes. He's had 1 looking. So of the 9, only 1 has been looking, and that was John Lester, the pitcher.
And 5 of them have been on the 4-seam fastball, and 4 of those 5 up out of the zone. You notice every time we do this graph, you rarely see a strikeout in that middle box in the middle of the plate. It's always on a ball up out of the zone. That's the swing and miss. That's the chase strikeout. And then the other ones are often on corners where you get them with location.
Harrison Bader 0 for 1 with a strikeout, followed by Kisner. And it looks like we'll have a pinch hitter for John Lester. On a hot day, get you through 5.
Did his job. And again, the length we'd hoped for in our key to the game. So the Cardinals have been given a chance by John Lester. Well done.
And for Mike Schilt, you're thinking, okay, can I get someone to bridge the gap to a rested big 3 in 7, 8, 9?
Be nice to get John Lester 1 step closer to 200 career victories, too.
Just a couple away. The 2-1 pitch. Fouled back. Good cut by Harrison Bader.
I was a teammate of Jerry Royce when he won his 200th game. And he had reporters all around him, and I walked over to him. I've told this story before, and walked in the midst of the reporters, and I said, Jerry, I just want you to know, congratulations, and this is something you'll be able someday to tell your grandkids about. In fact, why don't you get him on the phone now?
Did he appreciate that?
Oh, did he ever? We still joke about that.
What might have been in the 70s with Jerry Royce and Steve Carlton if they stay in St. Louis? It's 10 strikeouts, 4 1/3 for Skubal.
We were talking earlier about the guys who should get special recognition in the Hall of Fame, and talked about Tommy John. And I got a note on Twitter, which I 100% agree with, that you're going to give somebody that kind of recognition. Maybe you start with Curt Flood.
Agreed.
In terms of somebody that needs a special category recognition for his influence, and maybe it's just influencers or whatever you want to call it. He should be honored more than he is in our game.
Well, think about the lives that he changed by doing what he did. All these players for so many years, and the money that is flush in the game for players. It's a second career double-digit strikeout game for Skubal. His career high is 11. Did that June 21st against the White Sox this season.
I always say, Dan, that players, when they're 8 years old, don't start playing baseball because of the money in it. But you get to the big leagues, they don't give it back either.
That's exactly right. 2-2 right center, and that'll carry to Derek Hill. Jose Rondon will pinch hit for Lester. On the bench today for the Cardinals, Rondon, Molina, Carpenter, O'Neill, and Nootbaar. So Skubal 10 strikeouts, no walks, 2 hits allowed, 2 solo home runs. And that pitch taken high. He's got a little extra zip in the game today. Not that he didn't have it when we previously saw him. He was good, but it's just got a little extra life.
And he's more in the zone. I think the first pitch strikes are better, and just not a lot of wasted pitches. He's well aware of what the temperature is.
Rondon 368 against left-handed pitching this year, 7 for 19. Double, home run, 3 walks. Inside, and it's a count of 3 balls and no strikes. Tommy Edman on deck. Tigers will have Candelario, Cameron, and Castro coming up. Two outs, nobody on, and a 3-1 pitch to Rondon. High strike, 3-2.
Wonder how many pitches it took for Skubal to get loose before the game. He's certainly loose now, letting it rip.
That's it, out of play. Full count on Rondon. Did not go, and he draws the walk in. Jose was able to sell it there at the end too. Flipped the bat, ready to take off his protective gear and walking down that first base line. The first walk allowed by Skubal. October 2nd, Busch Stadium hosts the 16th annual Purina Pooches in the Ballpark Day. Come on down with your dog. Limited number tickets on sale now. Cardinals.com/Pooches. 2-out walk. Here's Tommy Edman, 0 for 2 with a ground out and a strikeout.
Well, I'd like to see at bat number 3 for Paul Goldschmidt to come with damage potential.
And pitch taken high, and really with nowhere else to put him either. You'd have to pitch to him unless you want to deal with the bases loaded and Carlson. Edman, base hit into left. Rondon to second. On his way to third. Tommy Edman stopping at first. Runners at the corners for Paul Goldschmidt, who has already homered twice in this game. The Nissan drives of the game. Goldschmidt back in the first. Home run number 20 over the bullpen and left. And then in the third, home run number 21 opposite way. Nissan drives of the game. So runners at the corners, shift on the left side. And the first pitch taken for a strike, fastball. Goldie now is driven in 73 on the year.
Well, Skubal tried to get in on him the first time, tried to go away the second time.
And the 0-1 taken high, 1 ball and 1 strike. It was the second game that he was playing in as a Cardinal against Milwaukee at their ballpark, and had the 3 home run night against the Brewers. A count of 1 ball, 1 strike, and a check on Tommy Edman as they almost threw it away.
Almost. That snap throw is always a dangerous throw because there's no footwork to it. It's all just your ability to make a firm throw and an accurate throw flat-footed. I've seen that thrown away many, many times.
Goldie hitting .358 here in the month of August. And the 1-1. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Little 2-out rally here by St. Louis. Rondon pinch hitting for John Lester, drew the walk. Tommy Edman, the base hit to left. Runners at the corners. Count of 1 ball and 2 strikes. Fouled back. Ooh, what a rip. Right on it. Right-hander Alex Lang getting loose in the Detroit bullpen. Pitch count at 82 on a very hot, steamy day here in St. Louis. The 1-2. 2-2.
Going to go back in.
The 2-2. Hit out of play. If you're going to go in, Ricky, you got to get in right now on Goldie. I mean, he is getting his hands through and the barrel through, doing damage.
Pretty good swing at that pitch, and it wasn't in as much as he wanted it to be. We'll see if they repeat and go back in again.
He has thrown 25 pitches in this inning.
Here it comes. I bet he goes up the ladder even more.
The 2-2. Got him. Popped him up. Jammed him just a bit. It's on the infield. Oh, and the catch made by Scope. Cardinals strand a pair. They have left 3 on. We have played 5 here at Busch Stadium. 4-game set tomorrow. We'll be on the air at 5:30. The early start time 6:05 with the first pitch. All 4 games on Bally Sports Midwest. Miles Michaelis will go tomorrow against Mitch Keller, who was very effective against the Cardinals in his previous start here at Busch. Happ and Dylan Peters, pair of lefties on Friday. Saturday, Waino against Stephen Brault. And who knows, might be Kim against Will Crow on Sunday. That announcement not made official just yet.
A 10-game road trip coming up. The Cardinals were perfect on their last road trip. And, of course, more work to do today. And Luis Garcia first out of the Cardinals bullpen. Our Chevy called to the bullpen. He has been phenomenal lately. And by lately, that's a long period of time now. 15 1/3 scoreless for Garcia. But in the 10 games on this next road trip, Dan, the Cardinals have to win 8 of them. And they probably may have to win even more than that. But that would be a good start. And it won't be easy.
Road trip takes them through Pittsburgh, then Cincinnati and Milwaukee. So Garcia gets Candelario. Cleanup man, then Cameron and Castro. 2-1 our score. You mentioned 15 1/3 scoreless innings. That's his last 12 games. And a little flare out to shallow left that'll drop in for a base hit. And extra bases for Jeimer Candelario. That's only his 8th hit allowed in the last 12 games.
Well, the Cardinals not being able to add on leaves them open to baseball just happening. And this is baseball happening. Ball off the end of the bat. Not well struck at all, but nobody there. And now some tension with a 1-run lead in the 6th inning.
Arenado playing back at third. Goldie playing in. And a runner at second. A.J. Hinch, even though you're in the American League, a guy that will sacrifice at times. The question is, do you do that with your 5th place hitter?
I wouldn't do it, but I would trust him to try to drive the ball the other way. which again is more of a National League style, but
that's what they did in the 2-game series against the Cardinals in Detroit. They were bunting and running, and looked like a National League style of baseball. That at triple digits, 0-2 the count.
That pitch was faster than the temperature.
That's tough to do today. And the 0-2 pitch to Cameron. Good job by Kisner to keep that in front. It's something that we'll see with Yachty, and he's changed over the years to where it's almost like a pancake going after the baseball. Greet it on a short hop and keep it in front and deaden it. Just like that.
I think the idea is to block it, and if you kind of give a little bit with it, almost like you're like you'd bunt a baseball. Like you're not allowing, you want the contact, but you just want to deaden the ball.
Swing and a miss. Fastball at 100. Cameron is 0 for 3. First strikeout for Luis Garcia. Let's check in with Erica.
Yeah, Danny, I talked to TJ McFarland this morning before the game today. He and Garcia, as you mentioned, both very effective since they have joined the Cardinals. He told me the two of them, they're both sinker ballers that pitch to contact, but joked Garcia obviously throws a lot harder than he does. But he said, we're not afraid to get our outs in the zone, considering the defense that we have behind us, which is filled with all those Gold Glovers. But he said the throwing strikes, it's huge. But amongst the two of them, that is contagious.
That has been the key, too.
Absolutely.
Throwing strikes, not a lot of walks.
And the other key is for Erica, wherever she may be around the ballpark, just to try to stay cool today. I know she's been roaming around the ballpark, and it's a hot one, Erica.
There's an 0-1 pitch to Willie Castro. And a fly ball. Long way to go. Dylan Carlson near the sidewall, sliding and out of play. Further the point that Erica was making, Luis Garcia, TJ McFarland now 2 of 4 relievers in the entire game. That this month 10 or more appearances without allowing a run. So the Cardinals have 2 of the 4 right here. With runners in scoring position, he's been very good. 1 for 11 against him since he was acquired. Detroit 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position today. 2 for 13 in the series. Now time called, 0-2. I mean, the more I see Garcia and his stuff, I think, could he close?
Yes, 100%. Well, you've got Jordan Hicks, who's certainly on the plans for 2022. And you've got a lot of guys throwing hard out in that bullpen with Cabrera, Gallegos.
0-2 pitch. Missed barely in.
Again at 100 miles an hour. And, you know, if Garcia keeps doing this and the Cardinals continue to find big arms in their bullpen, it makes it a lot easier to consider Alex Reyes as one of your starters next year, which I know is part of the thought, at least right now.
Jordan Hicks may go in your rotation.
Also a possibility.
1 ball and 2 strikes. And the next to Willie Castro. 2-2. It's interesting with Hicks, a guy that can get it up to 105, 106. Is he better served by having a routine of doing a bullpen, pitching every 5th day, monitor the innings, not getting up all the time and throwing max effort? Something to consider with his recent history of injuries. There's a ground ball taken there by Paul Goldschmidt to the bag and the out. Tying run advances to 3rd. Dustin Garneau will be the batter, who is 1 for 2 with a double and grounded into a double play. want to thank our crew, the men and women of our crew. There's Dawn, tucked behind that camera. She told us she had a thermometer up there, standing on the concrete. It listed at 158, the temperature. Whew. So thank you very, very much to our men and women of our crew.
That's the time. She wasn't looking at a clock, was she?
She sent me a picture. I saw it.
Okay, because it is 158.
How about that? It is. We went right to her at that time.
I know. Thought I was making that up.
One ball and one strike. One and two. So leadoff double by Candelario. He's now at third with 2 outs. Strikeout of Cameron. Castro, the ground ball right side. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The 7th place hitter, Dustin Garneau. Arenado way back at third, so runner at third can get way down the line. The 1-2 pitch. Fly ball into center. That'll back up Bader, shading from the sun, and puts it away. Garcia, another scoreless inning. That's 16 1/3 scoreless consecutively he's put together. Alex Lange is the new pitcher. Appeared in 19 games for the Mud Hens. He's 2-1. He's acquired along with another right-handed pitcher in exchange for Nick Castellanos a couple of years ago, and so Lange is into the ball game. Just recalled from AAA Toledo prior to their game Sunday at Toronto, threw a perfect inning of relief on Sunday, and now in relief of Skubal, who went 5 innings and struck out 10, 1 shy of his career high.
From Lee's Summit, Missouri, just outside of Kansas City, and was drafted, as you mentioned, by the Cubs initially, and he played collegiately at LSU, All-American at LSU.
He'll get Dylan Carlson, Nolan Arenado, and Paul DeYoung in the Cardinals half of the 6th. Well, Luis Garcia, another scoreless inning, 16 1/3 consecutive, and he has bridged the gap if the Cardinals want to go to the big 3.
And I also want to throw out something else about Luis Garcia, as we're both talking about him as a potential closer. If things don't go well for the Cardinals the next 2 weeks, you're hoping they do. But if they don't, do you try him out in a closer role with the idea that Alex Reyes is probably going to be a starter going forward? Again, you hope you don't have that decision and all games are meaningful up until the last game of the year and you see where you end up. But if you don't, I'd be in favor of giving him a shot or two at that.
Well, it might be the big 4 now.
Yeah.
And so
that's right.
Give him a crack at that. Here is Dylan Carlson 0 for 2 today. Off the end of the bat, shallow right center, and on the run, Derek Hill with a nice play. I'm going to follow this up, your point, with this question to you. So if you, let's just say things go south, you have a terrible road trip, and you really are mathematically basically out of it.
Right.
To get more innings in the bank, do you say, hey, Alex Reyes, go give us a 2-inning start, and in 5 days we'll give you a 3 to 4? Is that something to think about, or are we too late?
I think they go hand in hand, the two suggestions, and I think it's worth thinking about. I mean, the idea is you're trying to get, I mean, they have a general idea about the number of innings for Alex Reyes that they're trying to get to and also stay under. I mean, there's two things there. But if you're going to get him stretched out to be a starter going forward, I don't know if you stretch him out now that's going to relate to how he feels next year, but it does create a base of innings to jump off of for 2022. I think it's worth a thought. Again, the hope is we're not there.
Yeah.
Don't have to make that kind of assessment.
Would say this, though, with Garcia, if one of the guys that we talk about all the time are down, he's the guy you go to. He gets inserted in those later innings.
When the Cardinals had their worst troubles this year is when they had the bullpen plan B just wasn't working.
Near the line, and the catch made. Pop up off the bat of Arenado. Castro had a long way to go. They had a shift on for Nolan, so that's out number 2. This was not an easy play.
No, a long way to run. You're battling sun. You're battling the fact you don't want to run into your other teammates, and it was nicely played.
So 2 outs, and here is Paul DeJong. And again, it's been a quiet day offensively for the Cardinals. Out hit 8-3, but yet they lead it 2-1. Pair of solo home runs hit by Paul Goldschmidt. DeJong over 2 with a pair of strikeouts.
You know, that play by Castro is another reminder to me just how graceful and athletic big league baseball players are, and everything that they do that they make look easy isn't. And I can promise you, if I took 10 random fans and we all went down to second base and we had a machine pop the ball up down the right field line, we'd all be standing where Castro was, and I'd say, okay, now let's just watch this. Let's just watch this ball first. They put it, and I say, okay, now we have to catch that.
Well, you may remember we used to do that. Yeah, you got the hot dog plunger. The shooter, whatever.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You know, we put people out in center field. And
I do remember that.
Remember before the first pitch,
and that was scary at times. And that's just an easy pop-up.
Here's a 2-2 to Paul DeJong, and he's hit by the pitch.
Again, I'm not saying it's a Gold Glove play and that, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because he caught a pop-up down the right field line. But I am going to say that most human beings don't catch that ball.
No. Well, the Tigers did appeal to see if he swung, and our first base umpire, Tim Timmons, said he did not. So hit by the pitch, held up. And it brings in Sosa. 2 Cardinals hit today. Moments ago, Paul DeJong earlier in the game. In the second, it was the man at the plate, Edmundo Sosa. Struck out also back in the 4th. Big gap in left center. 2 outs, runner at first, and that pitch taken low. One ball and 1 strike. Sosa's had very good numbers at Busch Stadium this year. Much better at home. The 1-1. I was fooled by that pitch. Sosa hitting .300 here at Busch Stadium. A couple of home runs. And that backs up.
He thought about throwing that elbow out there again. Said enough is enough.
The 2-2 pitch to Sosa. Ricky, you will head on the team charter off to Pittsburgh. You'll be working on the radio side on the road at PNC. And that's a series you have to win.
No doubt. Wonderful ballpark, wonderful venue, but the Cardinals have a lot to play for there. And, I don't know what to think about the Pirates. You'd think that the Cardinals played them so well in Pittsburgh, but not here.
It's been one of the oddities of this year, and there's been a bunch of them.
And maybe we should have expected more oddities after the supreme oddity of 2020.
DeYoung off with the pitch, the 3-2, and that's a walk. So he's hit a man, and now a walk, and a chance for Harrison Bader. Had him at 0-2, and Sosa earned the walk. While we have a moment, quick word from Great Southern Bank.
How do you become number one? By focusing on what really matters. And what really matters to us is you. We're honored to be rated the #1 bank in America by our customers, according to Forbes.
Derek Holland, the lefty, he's been around forever, getting loose in the Tigers bullpen. Bader is 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts today. So Bader comes up, 2 runners on, 2 outs. Who's ready for discounted tickets? 8 or more gallons of gas, participating station using the My Phillips 66 app. Get 50% off Cardinal tickets. More information, visit cardinals.com/Phillips66. This homestand, the Cardinals 12 for 61. With runners in scoring position. 0 for 1 today, 1 for 10 in the series. 2 outs, 2 on. And Bader lifts a fly ball into right. Cameron back and with room on the track to make the catch. We head to the 7th. Cardinals on top. Healthcare difference maker today. So he picked up along the way, Ricky, 4 strikeouts. And that means he's 2 shy of Jim Cott, 13th place among left-handed pitchers in the history of the game. And he's closing in on 200 career wins. If they can make this stick, he'll be 2 away from 200 career wins.
Double play certainly helped him, and he's given way to the Cardinals bullpen. 1 scoreless inning from Garcia. Now it's Genesis Cabrera's turn. His typical 7th inning appearance, and Genesis has been very good in the month of August. And expect to see some more 100-mile-an-hour fastballs.
I brought this up when John Lester was a member of the Cubs, and earlier this season with the Nationals, we saw him in spring training. Is he a Hall of Famer? I mean, you know, you got the championships with Boston, 2 of those. He's got 1 with the Cubs. That's going to carry some weight. And he's going to wind up being one of the top lefties of his generation. It's something to think about.
It's so hard to judge now because the statistics have changed in terms of how you measure. You know, you're measuring for hitters, OPS.
Wow.
Oh, my.
Short hop, spin, out. What a play, Nolan Arenado. He's been busy today down at the hot corner.
So this is an added degree of difficulty when you can catch the ball, spin around, and still throw a runner out. That's just showing off is what that is.
Wow, what a play.
And watch him show off. The ball's hit sharply, 1 hop. He catches it. There's the spin. That was his way of just kind of giving with the ball. Going with the hop, reorienting himself. And as we say, the throw is always right on the money.
That's awesome. Victor Reyes will be the pinch hitter, but to your point of different eras and things change.
Who's going to win 300 games?
Nobody, but does it really matter anymore with the way the game is evaluated, right?
No, but if you're going to say our Hall of Famers have to win 300 games, you're not going to have any more. So you have to readjust what the thinking is. I'm sure there was a time when they thought about the Hall of Fame that you had to win 500 games like Cy Young did. And now it's like, well, wait a minute. We're not having 70 starts a year anymore. The game's a little different, and the game's different now. It's still baseball, Dan. The principles of baseball don't change, but it certainly evolves.
And this is Cabrera. Since the All-Star break, this is 16th appearance in a 1.84 ERA. Opponents hitting just 125 against him. Been awfully good. Touched up in his last appearance. 2 balls, 1 strike on Victor Reyes.
If you're the Tigers lineup, you get 87, 88 mile an hour fastballs from a lefty, and then you bring in Garcia throwing 100. Now you bring in a lefty throwing 98 plus.
And still on that bench Miguel Cabrera. Now we're in interleague play. Detroit won't come back for a while. This could be the final time we see Miguel Cabrera in St. Louis.
Could be right.
I would assume that A.J. Hinch realizes that, and if you get a moment to get him in to be recognized one more time, you do it. He was recognized by the crowd last night here at Busch Stadium. The 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
Cabrera has some stuff for you. And he also has the fun little finish. You get to see his back. And the full body squat.
Two-way, and it's Derek Hill.
That was only 99.
That's it. 2 outs and nobody on. And Hill hits it out of play. Corners are in for St. Louis defensively. Cardinals will have Kisner, Cabrera's spot, and Edman coming up. If anybody could reach, then Paul Goldschmidt, who has accounted for the 2 St. Louis runs, 2 solo home runs today. And the 0-1. Very, very hot, steamy day here in St. Louis. Exceptionally warm. 2 outs, nobody on, and the 1-1. Now 1-2. Hill today 1 for 3 with a double, and the only run scored for Detroit. The 1-2 pitch. Genesis Cabrera. Here it comes. Check swing, and he went. It's a strikeout. A couple of strikeouts in the inning for Genesis Cabrera. And it's time to stretch here in game 2 of this series. St. Louis on top 2-1. Baseball on Bally Sports Midwest, brought to you by Siteman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer close to home, and by Budweiser. This Bud's for you. Cardinals with a 2-1 lead as we head to the home half of the 7th here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and this copyrighted telecast presented by authority of the Cardinals, not to be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Skubal went 5. Lang the scoreless 6th inning. And a new pitcher in for the Detroit Tigers. It's Joe Jimenez, right-hander, to face Andrew Kisner. And the first pitch taken for a ball. Chevy called to the pen.
Cardinals bullpen has been great the last 2 days, but a little insurance would be nice.
And it's 7 scoreless in the ball game last night, and so far 2 scoreless here today. Giovanni Gallegos grabs a baseball, begins to throw in the Cardinal bullpen. Matt Carpenter at the on-deck circle. Honda home run inning. Cardinals hit a home run. The Gateway Honda dealers donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Missouri. And Kisner, the 3rd Cardinal hit today.
This one doesn't hit a pad, I don't think. I think it hit him right in the back. This one gets away from Jimenez, up and in, and it's actually his left shoulder. But that's all Kisner.
We were talking about it last night. Carpenter, this has been his role to pinch hit. Trying to be a little bit more aggressive earlier in counts. Let it fly. He of the no batting gloves. There it is. First pitch swinging. Carpenter 0 for his last 11. He'd love to change that here. 1 pitch. Now 0-2. Ricky, after today, 16 home games left in the 2021 campaign. You come back, and we're here at the ballpark. We'll be in September.
What you always hope for is meaningful games in September, and the next road trip is going to determine that.
3 pitches, strikeout of Carpenter. It's 11 strikeouts in the Cardinal lineup today. With Standing will host Perina Pooch is in the ballpark. And that is October 2nd. That's a Saturday. Limited number of tickets on sale now at cardinals.com/pooches. Tommy Edman 1 for 3, a base hit to left stranded in the 5th. The shift on the right side of the infield. Always find it in these spots interesting. If you start the runner, you do open up the hole where Tommy hits it a lot.
Absolutely.
Just like that, just right over him. That's a base hit into center. That was right over where he's positioned.
And he's playing there for a reason.
Yep.
You look at all the statistics, and they'll tell you that's exactly where he hits the ball most of the time on average. So that's where you play, and you play deep enough where you think you can throw them out, but you're not tall enough to catch this one.
So Goldschmidt, another shot at his 3rd home run of the day. He has been the St. Louis offense. Solo shot in the 1st over the Tigers bullpen and left. Then in a 3rd opposite field home run, he's now up to 21. He's driven in 73. Runners at 1st and 2nd and 1 out. Hitting .321 with runners in scoring position. The Cardinals 1 for 11 against the Tigers. The RISP in the 2 days.
I believe you said they were 2 for 25 against Pittsburgh prior to that.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. 0-2.
I think that was his pitch to hit.
Big gap in left center. The 0-2 off the plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Dylan Carlson on deck. On 1-2. Taken low. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The 2-2 pitch. And he struck him out, froze him.
Just couldn't pull the trigger on that. He has not been striking out much lately, but Jimenez just painted him.
Well, that's a tough pitch. So 2 outs, 2 on. Dylan Carlson is hitless today. Struck out, grounded out, flied out. First pitch is strike. I wonder if that will change over time with Dylan, or if this is the kind of hitter he is, but a lot of early strikes that he takes. One pitch.
I think
nothing in 2.
Depends on where he hits in the order.
That's a good point.
I think if he's a 1 or 2 guy, which he could be, I could see him still having that patience early in a count. But if he's a middle of the lineup hitter, 3, 4, or 5, you want him to get the first pitch that he can drive and drive it.
The 0-2. Get out of play. It'll be Scope, Grossman, Candelario. 2, 3, and 4 in the lineup for Detroit. And will it be a 1-run deficit for the Tigers? Carlson trying to change that. The 0-2. Got him. Strikes out 3 in the inning. Cardinals have struck out 13 times today, and yet they lead the ball game 2-1.
After the game, we'll have Cardinals Live. We'll be joined by the Mad Hungarian Al Rabasi. We'll talk about the red-hot Paul Goldschmidt in the month of August, and we'll preview the upcoming road trip as well. It's all coming up on Cardinals Live following today's game as we send it back to Danny and Ricky.
All right, Scotty, thank you. Chevy called to the pen, Giovanni Gallegos. So the Cardinals got 5 innings from Lester, 1 scoreless inning from Garcia, 1 from Cabrera, scoreless, and now Giovanni Gallegos. I love his intro music.
I do as well. Indio Enamorado.
And
it's a tribute to his grandfather. Yeah. It was his grandfather's, or is his grandfather's favorite song. And he said that's why he just loves to play it. I asked him, is this an old song or is it a new song? I just tried to be delicate about how I asked him. He said, oh, it's an old song, but it's in honor of my grandfather. But it's just so relaxing, isn't it?
Hey, you're sitting out in the backyard,
oh,
maybe
my
a little
goodness.
barbecue, having a little fun. And then he comes in and he's, breaking balls off
exactly
the table and throwing 95.
I think he's setting people up.
Yeah, you get back into reality.
Very different than coming into AC/DC or something like that.
Right. Hell's Bells is not rocking when
no.
Giovanni comes rolling in. Okay, big inning, 2, 3, and 4 for Detroit. And the top of the 8th.
And to your point earlier, Cabrera still lurking.
Yes. First pitch taken high by Jonathan Scope. 1 for 4 with the run batted in against Giovanni Gallegos. Cisnero, a right-hander, throwing for Detroit in their bullpen. Cardinals have been out hit 8-4, but they lead it 2-1. Pulled fair inside the third base line. Off the bat of Scope and down into the left field corner. Dug out by Dylan Carlson. And again, the tying run in scoring position for Detroit. They had a leadoff double against Garcia in the 6th. And now a leadoff double here in the 8th.
What an afternoon for Scope. 4 good at-bats for him. 3 for 3 with a walk. This one just inside the bag. That's the Gallegos slider that he was able to see. And hit sharply just inside the third base bag. Good day for Scope. Always been a good hitter. And again, the Cardinals relievers are going to have to go to work.
Ricky, we have seen that Giovanni after the break not quite as sharp.
Agreed.
Really good in the first half, and maybe it's a byproduct of just being used a bunch out of necessity, but not quite as sharp, and now has to pitch out of trouble. Leadoff double. Robbie Grossman 1 for 3 with a single to center. Let's see if he can drive him in or pull it to the right side. Advanced scope. There's strike one.
He still has the weapons to get you out of it, and that's what Garcia was able to do in the 6th inning after that leadoff double. He just kind of went to work and got the strikeout, the ground out, and the fly out. And of course, we take the same thing here from Gio. Capable of it, but he's in the tough part of the order for the Tigers as well.
The 0-1 pitch taken high. Opponents hitting about 140 against Giovanni Gallegos with runners in scoring position.
I would imagine that's a bit higher since the All-Star break.
Hit out of play, 1-2. On to play again.
This guy's a tough out, Dan. You really need the strikeout here. You need to keep him from getting the runner to third base.
One, two again. Swing and a miss and a big strikeout for Gallegos. So while the Cardinals have struck out 13 times, that's the 8th strikeout in the lineup for Detroit, and the first for Giovanni Gallegos.
There's the slider working. Interesting spin on that slider. If you look at the spin, and almost sideways spin to it. Again, his slider acts like a curveball most of the time.
So mound visit, first base open, part of the conversation here. Now they want to approach Candelario. Join the Blues in Bally Sports Midwest for Pedal the Cause at September 25th and 26th in the fight against cancer. First 50 riders on the Blues Can't Stop Colin team receive a complimentary registration. For more information on how to sign up, make a donation, stlouisblues.com/pedal. One out and a runner at second base. Jeimer Candelario, and the first pitch taken for a ball.
I think that mound visit had something to do with the fact that first base is open, and Candelario is the guy that they're most concerned about, as you mentioned. So the hard part for the pitcher is, does that mean I throw strikes or not, or just try to get him to chase something? That's where the slider comes into play.
One ball and one strike.
So you throw the slider there, and if he swings at it, you can get the swing and miss. Again, a fastball hitter. Stay away from the zone with the fastball, I think, is the summary of that.
One ball and one strike. A little bit of a shift towards the right side of the infield. The next by Giovanni Gallegos is a fly ball lifted out to left, battling the sun. Dylan Carlson with the catch. Runner doesn't tag. Out number 2. You can use the sunglasses, you got the eye black, you've got a hat, and you got a glove.
He's using all 3 and playing left field, where we've seen him the least. Saw him some in center field when Bader was out. Did a fine job there. Probably better in right than center, at least this year. But got to find a way to fight the elements.
Here's Daz Cameron, hitless today. Well, you think about the speed of Scope at second, the outfield arms, all the combinations that come into play with a base hit. Cameron 0 for 3. Pair of strikeouts, fly to center. And the first pitch by Gallegos. Swung on and missed in strike 1. Hitting .316 with runners in scoring position.
Thought Andrew Kisner did a nice job with John Lester, the starter. Those two seem to be connected, and a lot of stressful signal calls here in a one-run game with the Cardinals bullpen.
Outfield fairly shallow just in case of a base hit. Try to get that tying run. 1 ball and 1 strike. Especially, I would say, Ricky, in center and in right.
Yeah, no, they're shallow for sure. Two ways to control that. You try to hold them on at second base as close as you can with your middle infielders. Not very close are either DeYoung or Sosa. They're not doing much to hold him. Now Sosa starts to sneak in a little, but he's got a pretty big lead.
The 1-1 by Gallegos. 2 balls and 1 strike. Cardinals will have Arenado, DeYoung, Sosa looking ahead to their half of the 8th. Fly ball, right center. Bader there. Leadoff double. Scope left stranded. Giovanni Gallegos a scoreless top of the 8th. 4, 5, and 6 coming up for St. Louis. Was really good. The left-handed starter for Detroit. Gave up 3 hits, struck out 10, but 2 of the 3 hits were solo home runs hit by Paul Goldschmidt. The 2 runs for St. Louis. Scope a big day for Detroit. John Lester a chance at a win. And the Cardinals are 3 outs away from doing that. And this will be Jose Cisnero, the Chevy, called to the pen.
2.28 ERAs. One of those guys having a good year in the bullpen for Detroit. Chevy called to the bullpen. Couple days rest for him. And the Tigers bullpen's done a nice job too. We've talked about the Cardinals bullpen, but both bullpens have given up some traffic, but have been able to figure out a way out of it so far.
Kia player profile. Arenado is driven in 82. This is brought to you by your local Kia dealers. And I think that may surprise some. You know, he is only 6 away from being the top RBI man in the National League.
And they can come quickly.
He had 9 in the 3-game series most recently on the road against Kansas City. Detroit will go to Cisnero a lot. 5th in the American League. And 7th in the majors, 58 appearances. Pretty reliable coming out of their pen. Arenado pops it up to the right side. It's been a tough homestand for him. Scope called off by Castro in the out. 0 for 4 Nolan Arenado, but made his presence felt with his glove today. It brings in DeYoung, who has struck out twice and was hit by a pitch. 0 for 2. Once again, the reminder that the Cardinals fly out long road trip after this one is through, beginning tomorrow night. Miles Mikolas, Mitch Keller, and we'll be on the air at 5:30 with the pregame show. Lars Nootbaar has moved to the on-deck circle. And that would be for Sosa's spot. So I guess what you're thinking is you can improve with Tommy Edman coming in from the outfield, play second base. And Nootbaar potentially stays in the game for the outfield. And a fly ball into center. Derek Hill battling the sun makes the play.
A little perplexing to me. I mean, I wonder about the hit by pitch of Sosa.
That's what I'm thinking too.
He also had a wild swing in the last at bat. It turned into a walk, but he had a wild swing at that early pitch. I don't know. I'm still surprised by this move. And speaking of what we ought to be paying attention to, Danny, the Reds are being hosted by the Brewers tonight. That's Castillo and Woodruff. So Woodruff going for the Brewers. That game starts at 7:10, and the Dodgers are in San Diego, and Buehler is pitching for the Dodgers. So there's a couple of guys to root for, Woodruff and Buehler tonight.
So Sosa handing over those cards defensively to Tommy Edman, who would go to second. Then you could put Carlson potentially in right. Seems to be a little bit more comfortable there. Nootbaar would go to left. We'll see. Lars Nootbaar 2 for 5 as a pinch hitter this year. Shift on the right side of the infield. The 2-0 pitch. Outside, 3-0. Bader on deck. Again, still for Detroit, they do have, if they want to go there, Miguel Cabrera. Due up would be Castro, Garneau, and Zach Short.
Dan, sometimes you make a decision as a manager just because you have a feeling about something. And maybe it's this Nootbaar facing the right-hander.
And that'll be a walk. It's fascinating. I was emceeing a group leader dinner on Sunday after the game. And Mike Schild talked about that. And it was one single appearance, Ricky, that he was talking about as to why he went with Carpenter against a guy, and I can't remember who it was, but he's a sinker baller, and if you fall behind, Carpenter takes pitches. He loves to go inside. I like Carpenter's swing lately on inside pitches and low, so that's why I made them. I mean, you wouldn't think about that just sitting there in the stands or even us watching this. But a lot of it was due to the analytics and then factoring in what he's seeing behind the scenes with his swing.
Yeah, so there's analytics and then there's the people part. I can remember sitting on the bench. I think I was next to Tom Lawless, and we were wondering why Whitey wasn't squeezing with Willie McGee at third base, and a situation he typically did. And we were just talking about it. It was like, well, you know, normally we know what Whitey's going to do, and Whitey's taught us the smart way to play the game. He's a chess master, and I think, well, he hasn't given the sign yet, and I don't understand what's going on. And Whitey started walking up and down the bench, and he goes, I'd be squeezing here, but I saw Willie limping last inning, and I didn't think I wanted to chance him getting hurt. So there's always a reason.
Yeah.
And numbers weren't a part of that. People were. That's the job of a manager.
Just talking with Nick Leyva and others that were around Whitey as a coach, and they said, well, you can talk all about the analytics. He said Whitey was analytics before it was known as analytics.
Course, yeah. He might have had them on different colored charts and not
exactly
not on a thumb drive, but he knew them.
1 ball and 2 strikes. But to the point that Mike Schilt is saying, well, this guy gets a little wild. Carpenter takes pitches. We're going to get to 2-0. Loves to go down and in. And if he goes down and in, I like his chances. It was interesting.
And by the way, last time I ever questioned why Whitey wasn't or was doing something.
There's a liner out to left, sinking, but caught. We head to the 9th in a 1-run game. The all-star closer Alex Reyes coming on when we come back. Came off the bat of Paul Goldschmidt. First inning over the bullpen in left of the Tigers. Budweiser plays of the game. Fast forward to the 3rd. Second time up. And he goes the opposite way.
2 solo shots off a pitcher who's striking out a lot of batters. Reminds me of a game that happened at Busch Stadium 2, where Steve Carlton struck out 19 batters and gave up 2 solo home runs to Ron Swoboda and lost. And one of those home runs was caught by an usher, a young Bob Carpenter, who's now the broadcaster for the Nationals, and of course spent time here in St. Louis.
Swoboda, that was your guy.
That was my idol. He still
Growing
is.
up in New York, you loved him.
If I run into him, I'm still nervous. He's just a normal, humble guy. But he was the guy I rooted for. We're all rooting for Alex Reyes right now.
So Reyes will get Castro, Garneau, and Short still on the bench. Miguel Cabrera. And the first pitch to Willie Castro is taken for a ball high. He's got 2 hits. Caught stealing back in the 2nd. Grounded out to first. And the 1-0 pitch. Fought it off, popped up. Arenado battling the zone and puts it away for the out. And the look down is, you could tell that was tough. He had to flip those down. He's got the old school glasses.
He does. He flipped them down and then he was staring right up into the sun. They're old school glasses, but they got the new styling to them as well. But here's the jam shot. Broken bat, and there's Arenado. Glasses down, making the play. He's already flipped him by now.
Akil Baddoo will be the pinch hitter for Dustin Garneau, who went 1 for 3 with a double. Baddoo, a really good-looking young player for Detroit, is at the top of their lineup last night as he just returned. He was in a collision and was left out until last night, and there he is, Miguel Cabrera. You're in a 1-run game in the 9th. You're going to have one more shot. That's your guy.
We knew we'd see him, and perhaps for the last time.
There's a 1-0 pitch taken inside.
In St. Louis, that is.
It's interleague play. These 2 leagues have seen each other now the last couple of years. Going to change up next year. Cabrera's under contract for a couple of more years, so I would think it's doubtful he comes back.
You'd go East, West, and Central probably next 3 years in interleague.
There's a fly ball. Backing up. And making the catch, Lars Nootbaar.
Oh, my. Woo. Never a doubt. Never a doubt. He backed up, and the ball started to move. He, too's battling the sun, thinking about the wall. And you can see the sun coming off the glasses, and somehow he was able to make that play. Well, here's the moment you wanted, Dan.
And they're going to talk about how they want to approach this. So last night he put one into Big Mac land. He also flied out to deep center and then a base hit to right. It was just typical Miguel Cabrera. Hit number 500 over the weekend. That one 501.
How about how easy that swing was and how far that ball went?
Incredible. Well, you're going to be awfully careful clearly with Miguel Cabrera representing the tying run with one swing of the bat. 2 outs here in the top of the 9th of a 1-run game. And Cabrera hits it out to deep right. It's in the corner. And a one-hopper off the wall. Cabrera on his way to second base. And in there safely with a 2-out double. And let's see if A.J. Hinch again will go back to his bench and pinch run in this spot.
Looks like Cabrera is saying, let me run. I don't know if they will let him run. But the third time in the last 4 innings that the Tigers have had a double and had the tying run at second base.
You've got still left on the bench Griner, who's a backup catcher. And they also have Castro, Harold Castro. I'm surprised he's still out there.
But Castro at the plate now. You can't use him.
Yeah,
you can't use him in both places.
So you feel that Cabrera could do it or Griner? That's your option at second base. The tying run in scoring position.
Well, Dan, if it was easy, it would be boring.
It is interesting. Do you go with Griner or do you go with Miguel Cabrera to run at second base? Now, Griner is a catcher, but we've just seen Cabrera. He's not running all that well. And that's something that A.J. Hinch is dealing with, I'm sure, right now. And the first pitch to Castro is tapped foul, and you can see that Miguel Cabrera is trying to get a pretty good secondary lead there.
He is. The Cardinal outfield again, not very deep. I guess the point would be a single might not score him, but a double would. And do you want to use your last player on your bench? Well, you're down to your last out. Certainly think about it.
1 ball and 1 strike. Cardinals trying to hold on for John Lester. Get him another win closer to 200 and pick up win number 64 on the year. The 1-1. Nasty pitch, 1-2. Give these fans that are here credit, battling the heat all day, and now many of them on their feet. What has been a long, hot afternoon here in St. Louis. The 1-2 pitch. Hit the other way, slicing foul.
Oh, my goodness. Off the bat, Dan, I thought that was going to be in play. So close. The afternoon almost got longer and hotter.
One and 2 on Harold Castro. Cabrera, the runner at second. Up the middle, base hit. Here comes Cabrera. Bader gets it, fires to the plate. It's offline. They miss the cut. Castro winds up in scoring position, and the game is tied at 2.
Cabrera's at bat made it possible. And the pinch hitter Castro comes through. And they didn't need a pinch hitter after all, because a long way to go for Bader. In fact, Bader probably should hit the cutoff man here, but over the head of Goldschmidt, allowing the go-ahead run to get to second base.
Career run number 1,500 for Miguel Cabrera, and the frustration for Reyes. And a fly ball lifted out to right field. Catch made. Dylan Carlson. We head to the bottom of the ninth. They tied it up, and it's 2-2. And nobody on in the top of the ninth, down by a run. Miguel Cabrera came off the bench, doubled, and then Castro down to his final strike, a base hit into center, and has tied it up. And now the Cardinals have to come back against a lefty. Tied now 2-2. This is Gregory Soto, and this guy can be really good and really nasty.
No, his stuff is really good, and the numbers are good for Soto. And it looks like Tyler O'Neill is going to bat this inning. It's Kisner first, then the pitcher's spot, but it is Tyler O'Neill in that on-deck circle. We weren't sure just how available he would be with the back issue that he dealt with yesterday, but he and Yadier Molina, the only two players left on the Cardinals bench, and I guess at this point A.J. Hinch is glad he didn't pinch run for Cabrera. At least he has one player on his bench, and that's the backup catcher Griner. It's the one thing with the new extra inning rule, you don't feel as if you have to save too many pitchers or too many players, because if it does go extra innings, you get the man on second base, and the games are normally decided pretty quickly one way or the other.
And a strike to Kisner. Struck out, flied out, hit by a pitch. Cardinals have been out hit in the ball game 11-4. So they get the home runs hit by Goldschmidt in the first and the third, and Tommy Edman with the other two hits. Singles in the fifth and the seventh, and that has been it.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of focus on Alex Reyes not getting the final out with 2 strikes on the batter, but if the Cardinals add on early on, game's over right now. You give up 2 runs in 9 innings, you should win.
Here's the 1-2 pitch to Andrew Kisner, and a strikeout. Cardinals, by the way, have struck out 14 times now in this ball game. By the way, Ricky, they are now out of position players on their bench. Griner takes over, so he's batting 8th. Then you have Castro staying in the game after his RBI single. He's at short. Baddoo takes over in center for Hill, and Soto goes into the pitcher's spot at the top of the lineup. Did you get all that?
I got it.
Okay.
Just wrote it all in.
And now the Cardinals' final position player left on their bench is Yadier Molina. Here is Tyler O'Neill. O'Neill, a late scratch prior to yesterday's game, dealing with back tightness. 14 strikeouts, ties the season high for the Cardinals. 4th time they have done that in a game this year. And O'Neill hits it out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike.
TJ McFarland getting loose in the Cardinals pen.
Skubal gave the Tigers 5, struck out 10 of the 14. Then Lang, Jimenez, Cisnero, and Soto. One ball and 1 strike. 1-2 on Tyler O'Neill. Tommy Edman on deck. O'Neill, .293 against lefties this season. 4 home runs. In the hole, 1-2. Puts it in play slowly, charging at third. Candelario, and he gets O'Neill. Yes.
Boy, that was an awkward end to that run down the first baseline for a guy with a bad back, too.
It was.
He was giving it a big effort, Tyler O'Neill was. Here's the play, the throw, the big stretch, and then the almost slide afterwards. and very awkwardly hit the front of the bag and then skidded a bit on that right foot and somehow dropped the parachute. Again, he's had a bad back. That's a bit awkward.
Tommy Edman. Edman on the first pitch, fouled it back. If we get to the 10th, it would be Scope, Grossman, and then Candelario. And even though you have the pitcher spot that would be in the last out of the inning, you go then to the previous position player. That would be Castro. And that's what we're going to see. He would be at second base, and Edman almost beat it out. And that'll send us 2 extra innings. Busch Stadium in St. Louis, where the Cardinals were 1 out away from splitting the series. Detroit had 2 outs, nobody on in the top of the 9th. Miguel Cabrera, pinch hitter, then Castro pinch hitting, brought him in. It was a double by Cabrera, 3rd hit in the 2 games of the series, and then eventually scored the tying run. And now it's TJ McFarland. It's been Lester, Garcia, Cabrera, Gallegos, Reyes in the 9th gave up the run, and now TJ McFarland. Last 11 innings, no runs, 9 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. And so the rule, of course, is the extra innings, the runner made the last out would be your final out in the 9th. However, that was at the top of their lineup. And so Soto, the pitcher, went into that spot in the top of the Detroit lineups, and then you go back one more position player, and it's Castro who had the game-tying hit. So he's at second base, and now it's McFarland to face Scope, Grossman, and Candelario.
Cardinals have had some practice in this game with a man on second base and nobody out. Garcia was able to get out of that. And so was Giovanni Gallegos. Now it's up to TJ McFarland to get out of a mess that he didn't cause. Just the new rule. He's been really good, hasn't he?
Absolutely. So Michael Fulmer is getting loose in the Tigers bullpen. And when you do that many times, McFarland may be seeing if Jonathan Scope would be squaring to bunt, but why in this spot when he's 3 for 3, pair of doubles, RBI single, and a walk? He's been on base 4 times. I don't know. I may go against the book on a bunt and say swing away.
I'd let him swing, no doubt.
And the first pitch by McFarland. Taken for a ball. It's another situation where the pitching for the Cardinals has been just fine. 2 runs allowed through 9 innings, but yet you look at the offense, only 4 hits.
Yeah, and that's the point is you give up 2 runs in 9 innings, you should win.
Yep.
And the Cardinals' inability to add on after the Goldschmidt home runs early.
Lined into right field. Carlson going back and makes the catch on the track, and they didn't tag up. A base running mistake there by Castro.
Huge mistake by Castro.
He's got to be at third.
100%. If it's over his head, he scores anyway.
Oh boy, that cannot happen, but it just did. And the Cardinals get the all-important first out with a runner not advancing here in extra innings.
And think if you're Scope, you do your job and you don't get rewarded for it. Your job is to move the runner over.
Wow.
Well, he did what he needed to do to move the runner over. Hit the ball the other way. My goodness.
And now it's Robbie Grossman. He'll try to pick him up. Base hit, a single to center in the first, grounded out to third, soft liner to first, caught by Goldie, struck out in the 8th. So 1 out and a runner at second. Now you got to make him pay. I mean, they're giving you a gift right there.
And first base is open here with Grossman, who's hurt you. Candelario is next, who's also done some damage, but he's also hit into a double play.
Here's a 1-0 pitch. 2 balls, no strikes. Cardinals in their half of the 10th inning will have Goldschmidt, who's homered twice, Dylan Carlson, and Nolan Arenado. The 2-0 pitch. Not to be overlooked, by the way. Really fine play by Dylan Carlson in right field.
Yes, 100%.
Started this ball game in left. And he walked him. And I think, to your point, Ricky, maybe not necessarily the worst thing. We'll see how it plays out, but you do set up the potential of the double play.
Yeah, the downside of walking guys in an extra inning situation is you got an opportunity for a bigger inning than you would have otherwise, because you realize you're going to get to start with the guy at second base in the bottom half. So you almost have to think about it as, well, you're going to you believe you're going to score, and you believe they're going to maybe score 1. Let's make sure they don't score 2. So that's kind of the downside of extra runners. But with one swing of the bat, you get the big time advantage if it's a ground ball to short right here.
Candelario grounded into a 5-4-3 double play back in the first. Grounded to Arenado in the third. Blooped a double against Garcia to lead it off in the 6th. Left stranded and flied out to left. First pitch, a strike.
Arenado's been so good at those 5 unassisted double plays. I wouldn't mind seeing one of those, although he's a little deep for that. And I think you're playing deep because you're trying to cut off as many possible balls that could get to the outfield as you can. Increase your range by playing deep.
That pitch taken down. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike here in the top of the 10th of a 2-2 game. And the 1-1 pitch way inside. Daz Cameron is on deck. He is 0 for 4. Two balls and 1 strike. 2-2.
That would have been ball 3.
Two on, 1 out, the 2-2. Ground ball foul. Ground ball left side. Arenado gloves. The turn. Got him! It's a double play. The Cardinals have turned 3 double plays started by Nolan Arenado. Nice turn. Tommy Edman. A chance to win it when we come back. Either, and a good turn by Tommy Edman. 5-4-3. And now a chance to win it here in the 10th inning for St. Louis, the bottom half.
Yeah, it worked out just the way you wanted it to work out in the top half, but now you've got to come through. The good thing about it going extras, if you want a silver lining, is you have a chance for a walk-off moment against Michael Fulmer, who we saw here last night, having a good season, 3.74 ERA, 8 saves in 11 opportunities. He showed a good fastball here yesterday, but he's going to have to start out with Tommy Edman at second base. He has 2 of the 4 Cardinal hits here this afternoon, and the man at the plate, Paul Goldschmidt, has the other 2. That's it. 4 hits at the top of your lineup.
And you have good speed. Tommy Edman, the final out in the Cardinals' bottom half of the 9th. They're going to intentionally walk Goldschmidt, who is homered twice today. So runners at first and second for Dylan Carlson.
And now it's A.J. Hinch open for the double play in the bottom half.
So the corners in on the grass for Detroit. Runners at first and second. And the first pitch to Dylan Carlson here in the bottom of the 10th.
They're concerned about bunt, but I don't think he's going to.
We've seen the propensity in the second half of Carlson to just poke it through the left side when he sees that that hole is open. A lot of teams are shifting on him, and the Tigers doing that here. Big hitting lane left side. The 0-1. Nothing in 2. Arenado on deck. Cardinals are 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position today.
You would expect the corner infielders to move back now that it's 0-2. And there they go. Both of them have moved back. So that advantage of having them in, you just lost by getting to 2 strikes.
Trying to keep Edman close at the bag at second. Represents the winning run. And the 0-2. Pulled foul. It has plagued the Cardinals on this entire homestand, doing damage with runners in scoring position. Oh, 0-2 pitch. And a foul ball off the foot or shin of Dylan Carlson.
Well, it's right in front of the Cardinals right now in the bottom half of the 10th, and they haven't done anything to deserve the base runners yet. Commissioner's given them the runner at second, and the Tigers gave him the runner at first on the intentional walk. All you need is 1 hit, 1 big hit, and I don't mean off of your inside of your knee. Boy, that got him good.
The 0-2. And he stays alive. Not a comfortable swing, certainly, by Dylan Carlson, but still in there.
Dylan Carlson has never had a walk-off hit. Let's change that. Not at the big league level, anyway.
The 0-2 pitch to Dylan Carlson. Here it comes. Ouch. Again. That time got him on the back foot. Painful at bat so far for Dylan.
Beating himself up.
Arenado is on deck. Edman, your runner at second base, represents the winning run. Carlson out to left, sinking liner, caught in left field. Robbie Grossman keeps this game alive. If it goes by him, game over, and he comes up with an out and the runners cannot advance.
That's a terrific play by Grossman. I thought that was a hit off the bat, but it hung up just a little bit. And there's Grossman on the slide. Good at bat by Carlson. Almost got rewarded for it.
Now Nolan Arenado 0 for 4 today. Struck out, fly to center, twice has popped out to second. 351 the average with runners in scoring position. Arenado hits it down the right field line and foul. Jumping on that first pitch.
Walk-offs are fun, and we haven't quite had enough of those.
Runners go. Throw down to third. Stolen base, a double steal. Tommy Edman now at third base. And A.J. Hinch will have to change his defensive alignment more than likely here with one out.
And they might walk Arenado here too, who took that pitch on purpose because he saw the great jump of Tommy Edman. And they are going to walk
him now.
You do. I still like the stolen base, even though it takes the bat out of Arenado's hand, because it gets you the runner at third base. With one out, that's where you want to be, and you give Paulie DeJong a chance to hit a fly ball here.
DeJong has struck out twice, hit by a pitch, fly to center. Infield is drawn in. Outfield comes in a few steps. Bases loaded for St. Louis. First pitch taken for a ball inside. Only walk-off hit was a home run against Washington back in 2018. Bases loaded and the 1-0 pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike. May have chased a ball that might have been in. Evens it up at 1 ball and 1 strike. The 1-1. 1-2.
Fulmer wants the strikeout. DeJong wants the fly ball to the outfield.
1 ball and 2 strikes. 2-2. The 2-2 pitch to DeJong. Ground ball right side. Force play at the plate, and the stretch got him. Only question will be whether or not the foot was on the plate. The Cardinals will take a look. If it stands, they need a 2-out hit from the rookie Lars Nootbaar.
It's a good thing no one was covering second base, too, because they may have been able to get Arenado out. He ducked on the play and was late getting. He stopped, actually, and was hoping to get in a rundown, but they got the play at the plate. Looks like he was on the top of home plate for the force out, but then Arenado had to hustle to second base. Actually, good base running by Arenado. Now you need the rookie to come through.
Lars Nootbaar. Walked back in the 8th, stayed in the ball game, took over in left field.
If we go one more inning, we're liable to have pitchers batting with the game on the line.
Sure.
Both teams. Let's not worry about that.
He could end it here. First pitch to him. Nootbaar, swing and a miss, and strike one. Nootbaar got his first ever base hit against Detroit. How about his first ever walk-off against the Tigers? The 0-1 pitch.
Oh.
Yeah, if it hits you, you can take it that way too.
That's right. Almost hit him and almost got past the catcher. Couple of almosts. We didn't take it either one. A walk-off hit by pitch is anticlimactic, but it works. We've seen those before.
The 1-1 pitch to Lars Nootbaar. Check swing. Did not go. As my partner always says, that swing pitch. 1-1. Do you go to 1-2 or 2-1? And the difference in the numbers of success greatly increase for the man at the plate.
So a big call by the crew chief Sam Holbrook, the third base umpire we haven't thought about for 10 innings.
The 2-1 pitch. Nootbaar hits it right side. Base hit! The Cardinals win it. The rookie comes through. Nootbaar. First ever walk-off hit.
What a great moment for Nootbaar, who comes through in the bottom of the 10th inning. First career walk-off. The Cardinals were so close to win it in 9, but they have to win it in 10, and it's the rookie coming through, and he knew it right away. And a nice celebration, Dan, to follow.
Lars Nootbaar, the rookie. First ever hit was a triple against the Tigers. First ever walk-off against the Tigers. Erica standing by with Lars Nootbaar. Erica.
Thank you, Danny. Lars, you haven't been here long, but you've certainly made an impact in your short time with the Major League team. Take us through that at bat. You guys needed a win here today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he went cutter down, and he kind of beat me with the cutter last night, so I was kind of sitting it there. Fooled me on the first one. Kind of got out of the way of a four seam there, so I kind of felt like I had to do the job, and, you know, threw a cutter over the plate. I just tried to stay through it.
You got your first career hit in the majors against the Tigers, your first career walk-off today at home against Detroit. Do you like playing against these guys or something?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, obviously lucky the draw with the debut, but always good to get a win at home. You know, happy flight, that's for sure.
Yeah, happy flight indeed. Again, this has been a tough homestand for you guys. Tough news on the injury front as of late as well. How nice is it to close out this homestand and you guys head back out on the road, an important series in Pittsburgh, on a winning note? Yeah,
I mean, it's huge. Anytime you can go into a road series off a W, that's always big. So to get some momentum going into there, you know, it's big for the club going into September.
Congratulations, Newt. Nice job today. Hope to do it again another time soon.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, Danny.
All right, thank you, Erica. Lars Nootbaar, congratulations. First career walk-off hit. Cardinals win it in the 10th. Not a ton of offense, but just enough. And it's off to the post-game show. Pirates and Cardinals tomorrow. Post-game comes your way next.